Chapter 12, Section 3, Election Day and the Voters. As we wrap up Chapter 12 and we head toward our test, we've learned about the political process of running a campaign and how campaigns are funded. So today we're going to talk about the political participation by you, the voter. The United States is a democratic republic. It's a nation with a form of government in which political power belongs to the people. In order for a republic to function effectively, its citizens must participate in politics. But how do we participate? Well, first, we're informed about important issues. As a student, you're informed in school. You're informed by your parents. You're informed by the television. You're informed by the social media that you belong to. You also volunteer. Here at Mount Pleasant, we require you to volunteer in order to graduate high school. You also participate in campaigns, and you can do so by knocking on doors, putting in campaign signs. You can wear buttons, you can wear shirts. You can also give monetary donations. Or, if you really want to do something, you can get out there and become a candidate yourself. But most important, your number one job as a citizen of the United States, when you are old enough, you need to vote. Although most Americans older than 18 can register to vote, voter turnout rates in the United States today are lower than any other democracy in the world. The right to vote is one of that many Americans do not exercise. Until about 1830, most states granted the right to vote only to white men who owned property. By about the mid 1850s, the property requirement was dropped by all states. In 1870, African American men gained the right to vote. But it wasn't until 1920 that all women received that right to vote. For many African Americans, voting rights did not truly exist in many states until after the 1960s because of the discriminatory laws that Americans faced. Now, it is a known fact that fewer people under the age of 25 do vote, and that more people over the age of 65 vote. Unfortunately, your vote really counts at the local level, in which one vote could make a difference. When you're dealing with the national level, we did discuss earlier that during the 2000 campaign, George Bush and Al Gore, a matter of 1,500 votes did affect and influence the presidency because of Florida's voting laws. So, if voting is the greatest responsibility and political participation that you can do, what else can you do? Well, you can work on campaigns. Now, there's two parts to this. You can work on a campaign for the candidate, or you can work on a campaign against a candidate. As I said earlier, every political campaign seeks and needs volunteers, and those activities include working in a campaign office, making phone calls, texting, going door to door, or passing out literature, putting up yard signs, and just getting the word out. Now, poll workers are hired by the local election officials to work on election day. And here at Mount Pleasant, if you're 16 years of age, you are eligible to work on those days. Poll watchers, on the other hand, are people who mostly volunteers who work for the party or candidate, and they go to these polling places to ensure that elections are run fairly and smoothly. So what they'll do is they'll see who voted, who didn't vote. They may get out there and then make more phone calls to those who didn't vote. It's possible that they also text them or go to their doors and try to get them to come out and vote, or even take them to the voting polls. Voting is more than casting a ballot. There are phases of voting, and leading up to an election, you should learn about your candidates and their issues. The internet is one way to gain information about candidates and campaign issues. The second, if you're 18, is to register to vote. In most states, you must register to vote a specific number of days before election day. Then choose a political party or affiliation. And normally, you go Democrat, Republican, or Independent. Now, Independent is the third parties. And if you listen to what I said a couple of videos ago, we talked about if you are a certain party, you can only vote in closed primaries. And if you're independent, you can't vote in those closed primaries. You can only wait until the election in the fall. And lastly is to cast your vote. And in the United States, it's every citizen gets one vote. If you can't make it to the polling places, you can cast an absentee ballot. You can do this through the mail. You can cast a paper ballot in some states, mechanical machines in others, and in Allegheny County, where I vote, it's done on a big computer screen. Now, one topic we'll get into later, but is worth mentioning now, is apportionment and reapportionment. So, apportionment means that each candidate has the same number of constituents in their district. And reapportionment is to readjust that so that each candidate has the same amount or similar, close to. You don't want people to have more than another because then you'll obviously be lopsided. But we do this through censuses. And a census is taken every 10 years, and it started in 1790 under the authorization of George Washington and is conducted every 10 years. So every so 2020 we just had a census, and if you don't fill out your census forms and they catch you, it's actually a fine. And in 19 I want to say 1990, maybe it was 2000, um, I thought my wife filled it out, she thought I filled it out, and because we didn't, and then we ignored the mailing afterwards because we both assumed we did, we got fined. And then for the next 10 years, people from the election bureau once a month would call me, and that lasted for about 5 years. And then for the next 5 years, once a year, they would contact me to make sure I was, what job I had, how much income we had, how many kids we had. And it's something that when you get your census, just fill it out, submit it. It's not that difficult. And if you're married at the time, make sure your spouse did it if you didn't. So once you're 18, get out there and vote. Be the difference. Make a difference.